Mike, you talked before about with me about how you can implement a really great strategy for trying to attract those gear sponsorships early in your career by kind of acting like you're already sponsored in a way, if that makes sense. Can you sort of talk about that a little bit more? And can you expand on that perhaps into other types of brand partnerships beyond just gears?
Well, it kind of goes back to what Tim had said, where, they do this questionnaire with their artists of the things that they're interested in. And so people in bands naturally, presumably the instrumentalists are, fans of the instruments that they're actually playing. And so, sort of the easiest way to get the attention of, somebody who you might want to endorse you later on is to start endorsing the product anyways.
So, like, fake it to make it is what you're saying?
Absolutely.
I mean, a little bit, right? Or just, self-promotion or promotion of the product that you actually like using.
I mean, Mike, when we did Tooth Grinder, like, we pushed the Vans angle, really hard. We're like, Will's showing out how much he loved his Vans during every show. Will's was the drummer of Tooth Grinder, and I think we really pushed it, and we were able to get a sponsorship with them.
Yeah, and that was one of those cool ones where, like, it wasn't necessarily that he came to us and said, hey, this is what I'm doing. It's like he was doing it. Someone on the team, it might have even been Tim, noticed it and then said, hey, can we do something bigger with this? And we all, somebody had a relationship with Vans and we went to them, and yeah, it started to develop organically. So I think we've all got countless examples of ways that our artists have done it. And, there's times that it doesn't work either. They do it. And that's why it kind of has to be, well, it doesn't kind of have to be, it has to be genuine. If you're doing it just with the sole idea of eventually getting endorsed, you may be left, disappointed in the end.
No, but that's a real easy way to, not easy, but it's a helpful way to get the gear endorsements for sure, though. If you have band members that do have a decent enough following on social media, and they might not be endorsed by this particular drum company, but if they do have the kit and they're constantly doing playthroughs, or they're doing their photos on Instagram and they're hashtagging in the company, that gives us the ammo to go to those companies at NAMM or whenever you can get them on the phone or email to show them footage or assets showing ammunition, if you will, of saying, look, this artist has already been promoting this brand over and over. These are the views. These are how many likes. What can we do further to enter into a more actual partnership to where we can build this from bigger than where it is right now?
And Derek,
and I was just going to say, Paul, to expand on that, right? It would then go, let's say, whoever Derek's artist is that's got these great endorsements, they've got a new product coming out. If the relationship's been built over time and it is, mutually symbiotic, he can go to them and say, hey, how about some promotional posts for whatever our product is? And that's really kind of the key when you've got, multiple lanes of those types of outside sources helping you promote the product that you're doing. It's like influencers, but more from a brand perspective.
Oh, very cool. Derek, on that topic of influencers and brands, and then the band itself, your clients have their own brands, and some of those brands are extremely different from one to the next.
Yeah.
So how are you balancing the need to try to get some of these brands and influencers involved with your acts while at the same time protecting their brands? How much of a balance is that?
I mean, so if I'm just going by like some examples of, even on this panel, like a couple of the bands that stick out that have like this very dedicated following that they built up over several years, Ice Nine Kills, Insane Clown Posse. I mean, I can say Dance Gavin Dance on my end. It's like they have put together a style and a style, aesthetic, brand, if you will, of what fans, even outside the music, but what fans can anticipate and look to in terms of putting out content, the merch items, the album covers. There seems to be a trend that follows, and like that to me is like so valuable over time, because you built this up organically or through various discussions with management or labels, but you built up this whole world around you that just, to me, helps sell as much tickets or music as the music itself. You see what I'm saying? Like like with Dance Gavin Dance, we put out an album. There's typically the same person that does the album artwork, goes from the next to the next, and there's a theme, there's a following. You see it with a lot of the other artists that I just mentioned. There are different processes that follow that the hardcore fans, the fans that have been there for many years, they've grown accustomed to, and they appreciate it, and it just helps overall on the whole thing. Now, in terms of like influencers, I personally haven't had too much experience with like any, and maybe I'm not totally clear on the definition of influencers, but I haven't had too much experience with actual quote unquote influencers. But I have started to just very recently with TikTok, just entered that world where we are reaching out to, for some certain projects that I have, we are reaching out to actual people on TikTok that have a very good following, that know how to do it, and we're feeding them some ideas and some pieces of the different songs for them to make videos to, and we're going to see how that actually goes and how far that spreads.
What's your TikTok handle there, Derek?
Oh, my TikTok handle? Let me know about after this call. I'll make my own, and I'll let you know, and you can follow me. My first follower. I do not have one, but I wish for this call I could have better input, but like literally these past 2-3 weeks, I've been diving into it a bit deeper and starting to get some real know-how into like how to go in. And there are individual people out there that that actually are starting their own companies, freelancers that have much more knowledge than I do and have access to these people that have their big followings and can pitch ideas to them, and then they'll run with it.
Eddie, how much of a wormhole is TikTok? Should we dive in at all here?
I mean, I don't personally think it's very effective for a lot of the bands that we're talking about here. It skews very, very young. I'm trying to play with it a little bit for Blue October because the songs have a little bit of a dance vibe to them, the newer tracks. But as it relates to like an Ice Nine Kills or a Tooth Grinder, it just doesn't. It's not the right audience.
Yeah, like we have an urban side project from one of our artists that we're trying to start there. I don't know if I can take, just for example, I work with Bullet from a Valentine and Atreyu, and I don't really know if TikTok is the right audience for those two bands. I'd prefer to start, really, we're really going at Twitch a lot harder than a TikTok, because most of our bands are gamers, it just seems like we have more influence there. Like we premiered a video for the Browning on Twitch because he's a giant gamer. So it's just one example.
How did that go? Well, on the premiere and the video on that.
It went great because Johnny from the Browning is a giant gamer. He has a really big following, and it was super interactive. He has his own custom, emojis and stuff. Right. Like he's really set up there. And, it just gave a really nice kick in the ass to that campaign. Sure.
Well, and like I'll say, Paul, I don't know, the platform is sort of independent. I mean, why I like working with a guy like Eddie or, a guy like Tim and, Derek and I have, worked at the same company before. It's like, it's really about the idea, it's about finding this unique lane that no one else has really thought of for whatever the particular artist is. And then, depending on whichever platform you deem the most important, if not all of them, you figure out the strategy that's important for those.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, Mike, let's just sort of talk about the idea of brand. And Ice Nine Kills has been mentioned a couple times now. Like they're over with the Silver Screen. Silver Screen, there was a very, very defined, very specific branding for the band that was, with the videos and everything. It all was very, very consistent. How sort of well-defined was that brand early on, and how has it evolved? Is there any fear of being sort of trapped by the brand at all for the band as artists?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think it's developed over time, and I can't say whether or not I think we'll be trapped. I mean, the beautiful thing is there's, precedent set for horror infused, metal. And I think thankfully our singer is smart enough to be able to sort of weave his own story that is to come. And those are things that we've considered. This has been a fantastic foundation that's been laid that we can then explore from. So, I mean, to me, right, like what's been so cool, and, we worked with Eddie's company on this was, we released that record in October of 2018, and, October 2019 came around, and, part of the challenge, as Derek can attest as a manager, you got just so many things that are happening at any one point. Sometimes the marketing, is, it's important, but to dig in and find a unique angle on any given, day, week, month, or year is actually part of the biggest challenge. So, Eddie called me up and just said, hey, what are you doing for the month of October? And I said, well, I got this idea, that idea, this idea. He goes, I got your idea, and then he's a guy that, came up with the idea because that's a personality that Eddie has. But more importantly, right, he's able to take it out of my hands and go implement it. And I think that's really, regardless of, the Ice Nine Kills brand, which is incredibly important. If we didn't have that, it probably wouldn't have lent itself to Eddie's idea. But, what I love about a good marketer, and both Tim and Eddie, is like they're helping us as managers find whatever that idea is and really figure out the way to implement it.